Hey, and we are back with another More Than a Refresh, the T3D sessions. Our guest today is Ildefonso Camargo. He's probably going to correct me on how I pronounce that. He is one of my longest tenured, that's a good term, longest tenured colleagues. Ildefonso, what are we going to be talking about today?
Well, basically, this general trend that some people has about basically shifting responsibility into third parties for their data safety and security posture, and basically the fact that shifting responsibility and will not necessarily make your data safe.
Well, certainly not. And I could go into it. I've seen this trend along a lot of not just data, right? Is when even personally, we're starting to shift. Well, I don't worry about it. The credit card company will, right? But this is particularly challenging with cloud providers, and why is that?
Well, basically, for one, I think it is the cloud hype that the cloud we will just rent everything and we no longer need ops we no longer need ops personnel, we no longer need sysadmins, we no longer need even DBAs because the cloud is going to manage everything. It's a fully managed services. From this, and people sometimes just don't take the time to read or evaluate the terms and conditions, and oftentimes the terms and conditions in the cloud provider clearly state that they have limitation on the responsibility they take.
Yeah, I mean, from a business perspective, cloud is great, and you can deploy a quick service, or if you're a startup, you can do an MVP really quick. But it's definitely important to recognize that cloud providers, there are exceptions, but they don't accept responsibility for you and your data. They're providing a resource, and how you use it is your responsibility. Is that accurate?
And that's my understanding. I was basically reviewing the recent incident with UniSuper in Australia, and how, according to Google, a configuration error and made the system automatically delete their account as a whole, apparently. And they only survive as a business because they had backups on a different provider.
Well, right. I mean, that's just good policy in general. I mean, even before the cloud, there was a concept of offsite backups. There was a concept, there used to be I don't know if there's still a company, but a company called Iron Mountain, where you could actually take a backup with your hard drives, your old spinning metal, or even your tapes, and they would come pick them up and then put them in Vault for disaster recovery, for fiduciary responsibility, for regulated industry requirements, things like that. And for the longest time, I mean, before cloud was a thing, when internet was still commerce, but cloud, the modern cloud didn't exist yet. You still had the idea of you have your production site and then your DR site, your disaster recovery site.
Yeah, you remind me of a coworker who was mentioned the 3-2-1 rule. Apparently, three on-site backups and three copies on two different locations, one of which has to be outside. I believe that was the rule in general. And when you do the cloud, a lot of people think, oh, yes, I have a backup that is replicated automatically by this cloud provider into two regions. So they assume that they already have the two locations or the offsite location,
Mm-mm.
when exactly, in fact, they don't. Because the cloud in itself is a single point of failure. I mean, this doesn't happen every day, and it has only happened once that made the news with the UniSuper issue. But on smaller people, I have had situation where they have lost access to their whole Google Cloud as a personal account. I had go ahead.
I was going to say, well, one, I want to give a shout out to rsync.net. Right, this is one of the things that we do. We're in the cloud now. There's no reason for us to maintain hardware, but even though we use Google Cloud, we keep backups on rsync.net, which is geo-replicated. And I like using them for a number of reasons. One, they're old school, right? They're using the SSH protocol and rsync, but also because they're a small independent provider that provides really great service. But on the flip side, there's another part of this that we can touch on a little bit. Because you said this only happened once, not entirely true. I mean, in a lot different variations have happened of this on AWS, on Microsoft, on all of them. I mean, right now, even Spotify. There's a former employee by the name of Robbie Russell. Who he has a band. He's actually a huge Ruby on Rails developer, and he's got a cool company called Planet Argon. But he has a band, and Spotify for creators or Spotify for artists or whatever it's called has locked him out. And he hasn't been able to get them to respond. He hasn't, because he's trying to solve this problem about his band. They're a cloud provider. They're not a cloud provider like we are, but they're a cloud provider for artists and podcasters. But the one that would affect a lot of people, you may remember this a few years back. I mean, this could have been like 6 years now, but at one point, a good portion of the entire internet went down because they were serving a JavaScript library across thousands of websites that just had a public S3 bucket. And they were pulling that JavaScript library from the public S3 bucket. And I don't remember if the S3 bucket went private or the file got deleted or whatever, but all of a sudden thousands of very popular websites stopped working because instead of taking responsibility for their code and their dependencies, they just handed it off to someone they didn't even know. It was just some public repo.
Yes, that is correct. And that happened. I do not remember if that was the same case where the developer just kind of got tired of providing for free and he just changed the code and made it with something that broke. And a lot of people just pull it without verifying and it was
Oh
broken.
yeah,
And he
that
was
one
like,
happened. Yeah, that one happened too. I
so
remember
he's
that. He's
another
like,
one. Yeah.
yeah, I remember that. It's like because he put all this effort into it, and nobody would sponsor him. It's kind of like malicious compliance, right?
Yeah.
Nobody would sponsor him, and so he's like, "Fine, I'm going to just break it." And the thing is, you can't go after him because the open source licenses literally state you can use it, but I have no liability. If you don't test this yourself to make sure it works for you, it's on you.
Exactly. And it makes sense. I mean, he's not being paid nor anything, so why would he have any responsibility over that?
No,
Yeah,
agreed.
I totally fell for
So,
him.
so what do you think? I mean, obviously, the solution. I mean, the total solution is humans accepting responsibility, but we do have to be realistic. That's not going to happen. So, what is the solution?
Well, basically, you need to cover your bases. I mean, if you know you have some data and your business depends on it, well, you need to understand that it is your responsibility to maintain that data. Otherwise, you may lose it and you will be out of business. I remember this client who was just moving everything to Google, like 100%, and they even moved the database into AlloyDB, which is not a bad product. It has good performance, and
Yeah, it does.
yeah,
Dynamic shared buffers, the whole bit. It's got a lot of interesting features.
correct. But the backups then are only through Google. So
Mm-hmm.
their data set was big enough that it is not feasible to be taking daily PG dumps. Maybe they can take one once a week or something like that. And it will be the whole week, basically grabbing the PG dump.
Wait, but AllyDB can do like snapshots at least, right?
Yeah, but they are within Google. So what do you do once you have the snapshot? I mean,
Oh, I
if
see
Google,
what you're saying. Yeah.
yes, if you lose the whole account, you lose everything. And maybe one idea could be to use logical replication to basically keep a kind of warm standby outside of Google, maybe on an Amazon system and maybe an EC2 instance or something, and you basically replicate through logical. But that comes with its own challenges. With logical, you need to
Well,
be sure you keep the schemas compatible and all of that.
not only that. I mean, now we're talking about costs, right? Because it's egress. So,
Correct.
this is an interesting argument, and let's be clear, folks. We're not anti-cloud. We know the benefits of the cloud. We make a lot of money helping people with the cloud, whether it be AWS, whether it be Google. Not so much with Azure. I'm not sure anybody that wants a modern cloud uses that. But I'm kidding. I don't know. But AWS and Google we do work a lot with, and so we're not knocking those. But there's a couple things to understand with them. Is one, they are lock-in, right? You're essentially using a lot of open source components that have been forked and modified to lock you in to a peace of mind that doesn't actually exist. And that's normal. It's the cost of doing business nowadays. But you really need to think about the services that you are using and what it means when that service either A is discontinued, B fails, or C no longer provides what you need it to and what it's going to take to migrate off. It's one of the biggest arguments for open standards, right? It's why, sure, use Amazon, but use EC2 with Linux with Postgres, not necessarily Aurora. And there's nothing wrong with Aurora. It does a lot of really great things, but don't think you're running Postgres on Aurora. You're not. You're running a different architecture that is compatible. So if you ever have to move off of it, you have to take into account that compatibility.
Correct. Yes.
All right. Is there any closing comments, Ildefonso?
Yeah, basically we need to keep in mind that persons are just humans and AIs are not better. So basically, systems can and will fail, and it is not on purpose. I mean, Google didn't delete these people's account on purpose, not at all.
Right.
It was just an honest mistake, but you need to be prepared for that.
And with that, I will say AI is for the lazy. Good day, and thank you very much.